Hello and welcome to Thursday, September 24th, daily lesson. Here's our agenda today. You will go to Google Classroom and do your warm-up. Again, it's important that you watch this video. Always watch our videos for the presentation to get that direct instruction. Today we're going to discuss two poems. I'm offering this poem and the writer. You're going to go to Google Classroom and click on the assignment that says read and annotate these two poems, and that will give you the Savas link, which will take you to the two poems so that you can annotate. Make sure you go to the slides and that you are reading the annotation key, and then you annotate it according to the slides. After you finish reading and analyzing this last poem that we're going to do, the writer, you do have an activity, a worksheet to do, where you're going to practice paraphrasing. I will walk you through the first two paraphrases, and then you'll do the last three on your own. Remember, if you have any questions, please let me know or message me or email me. Okay. So for today's slides, go here. So for your warm-up in the Google form, I want you to think about these following questions and make sure your response are written in a well thought out and written response. I don't want any vague writing or very short, simplistic writing. I'd like to see you elevate that skill. My question to you is, would you call yourself an avid reader, and explain why or why not? If you agree that you're an avid reader, then what is it about reading a book you enjoy most? And what type of books do you like best? If you say no, then why do you think you don't enjoy it? Do you think you could come to enjoy reading in time? Explain why or why not. And that will be your warm-up. Remember, always do your warm-up so that you can get your attendance counted. All right, so with these two poems that we're going to read, the first poem, I'm offering this poem is there to gain a deeper understanding of the poem. We're going to look at the structure, how the poem, the author or the poet's, the poet organizes his poem. And then for the writer, you're going to analyze the poem with a partner and annotate it, and we're going to look on how to practice paraphrasing information. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So for my remote learners, you're going to, when you click on the Savas link and you get into the poetry, all the poems are right there. You're going to read the concept vocabulary, which is a little different this time in this section, by clicking the prepare to read and select the concept vocabulary and learn about decoding the meaning of unfamiliar words. So I'll go to that. So once you click on your link, you should get this poetry collection. You're going to click on the prepare to read, concept vocabulary, and read through this information before you get started. When you finish doing that, you will need to read the background information on the poems by clicking background and read about the authors themselves as well and get to know them. So go ahead and pause your video and you can take care of your warm-up and then getting Savas loaded onto your screen so that you can start reading and annotating the text. So pause the video and do those two things. Okay, so you should have done all those things. You should have done the prepare read, looking at the vocabulary and reading the background information and about the authors. So the first poem we're going to look at is I'm offering this poem. And again, I want you to quietly read it to yourself. And you're going to, for remote learners, here's your annotation key. You're going to circle words you don't know, yellow. You're going to highlight similes, pink, metaphors, green, and highlight repetition, blue. So, some questions we want to answer as we read: how and why the speaker uses of references and images related to warmth and cold. We're going to focus on line 14 through 15. The speaker compares, read lines 14 through 15. The speaker compares like with a wilderness to suggest that there is no map for life. This reinforces the theme that the poem is valuable and can valuable and let me fix that. Okay, we're going to start over with read lines 14 through 15. The speaker compares life with the wilderness to suggest there's no map for life. This reinforces the theme that the poem is valuable and can offer what? What is he saying it can offer? And then look at lines 17 through 18. What figurative language is used and what is significance? And what is the significance of the repetition, I love you? Okay, so what you can do now after you have annotated and you have read quietly to yourself is to listen to the poet read his poem, and then just compare and contrast what you see in the video versus the text. There's nothing for you to write, it's just for you to make a little comparison too. And what you want to think about is how does this emphasis created by the written lines compared to Bacca's reading? And does the difference between the two alter the poem's meaning or the listener's emotional response to the poem? So you can kind of just think about that. You could even share that with somebody that is in your home and read the poem together and see what you guys think about it together, just to have a little bit of discussion. And then remember, reading poetry involves our eyes and our mind. So hearing poetry requires our ears, our mind, and sometimes our eyes as we watch the speaker. So how does adding the sensory input of sound effects affect our interpretation response to the poetry? So just think about those things. So before we go on, I'm going to go ahead and go to Savas and go ahead and walk you through the poem some. I'm offering this poem. It has a kind of a love story going on here. We have a speaker who we know from the very beginning, the first stanza. I am offering you this poem to you since I have nothing else to give. So that tells us that he is poor and that he's speaking to somebody he loves. Keep it. So the poem he's saying, keep it like a warm coat when winter comes to cover you, or like a pair of thick socks that cold cannot bite through. I love you. So think about, so we see right here we've got two similes that he's using here, and look at the images that he's saying. Wear it like a warm coat, like a pair of socks. If we think about these words, and even in the stanza later, he talks about a scarf. These items that he's talking about suggest that outside there is some coldness going on. And what he's really referring to is not literally like there's a cold weather, but the storms of life, the cold hardness of the world is what he's talking about. And that this poem, the person that he loves, that he's given it to, he's hoping this poem will be the coat. Think about like a coat embraces you. Socks, you kind of just feel nice and warm and cozy and safe. And that's what he wants the poem to be for the person that he's loved, that he's giving this poem to. And he's reinforcing each stanza with that repetition of saying, I love you. Notice that the I love you has a comma after it. 1, 2, 3 times, but the fourth time the I love you is a period, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So notice that repetition. So this poem is a free verse poem, as we can tell. We can tell that it has 8 stanzas. We're going to count the refrain right here as a stanza. it helps gives that structure. Since the poem is so unpredictable, being free verse, the refrain helps give it some structure. Okay. If you look in stanza 2, starting after I love you, I have nothing else to give you. Notice he's repeating that, what he said here in the first poem, in the first stanza. I am offering you this poem since I have nothing else to give. So again, reinforcing that he's poor. And so it is a pot full of yellow corn to warm your belly in winter, and it is a scarf for your head to wear over your hair to tie up around your face. I love you. So again, we see the speaker wants to protect his loved one from the environment, and by giving, and he's talking about even a real closeness here by the scarf, about tying it about his the person he loves face. Let's look at the next stanza. Keep it now. He's changing. There's a little shift. He's telling the person that he loves what to do with the poem. Keep it. Treasure this as you would if it were lost. Needing directions in the wilderness of life becomes when mature. And in the corners of your drawer, tuck away like a cabin or a hogan, dense trees, come a knocking, and I will answer. Give you directions and let you warm yourself by the fire. Rest by the fire and make you feel safe. I love you. So this was definitely a longer stanza. And like I said, he's kind of pointing out that when life gets hard, um, the older you get, that becomes when you become more mature and you grow up, life doesn't get easier. It really doesn't. It gets harder. And so he's saying this poem is so precious and valuable to tuck it away somewhere, and so that you can pull it, his love can pull it out whenever life gets hard, and use it kind of as a map, as a direction, um, to help them get to him. And he will be there to offer warmth and comfort and safety by the fire. Let's see. Pause a second. Okay, and now in the last stanza here, it's all I have to give and all anyone it needs to live and to go on living inside. When the world outside no longer cares if you live or die, remember I love you. So again, he's reinforcing that the poem, which is his love, is all anyone needs of whatever. This all he or she needs is the love to live, and just kind of also making a connection with poetry, kind of saying that love is poetry and poetry is love, and without them we can't survive. And of course, that's the passion of a poet right there. Notice here at the end, like I was talking about, the period. So the commas before in the previous refrains lead us and connect us to each stanza. But here, if you think about a period means an end to something, it's a finality. So he's bringing it all to the poem to a nice clean end. So as you can see, I've done some highlighting. I've done according to the annotation key. I've made notes. We can look here at my notes. Repetition serves as a bridge, and the comma maintains a link between each stanza of ideas. I want you to be making these notes like this. Remember, I talked about the coat, the socks, and now the scarf. Here's the notes here. The items, coat, socks, scarf, suggest the weather is cold outside and the speaker's love needs protective items. The speaker is referring to the cold world, and his poem or words would be the protective gear his love needs to feel safe. So do you see, I'm just answering those questions and annotating by clarifying what is happening in the poem. Let's look at this one. The speaker compares life and wilderness to suggest that there is no map for life. This reinforces the theme that the poem is a valuable gift by showing the poem can offer guidance. Remember, he said it's a map. If you get lost along the way, all you have to do is pull it out of that drawer, and it would lead you to me to the cabin where I am at. And then all you have to do is knock on the door, and then there I am. And again, this tucking it away to the corner, that similarly suggests that this poem is very valuable. Okay, so that's simply the poem. I am offering this poem. Next, we're going to discuss the writer. Okay, this too was another free verse poem. We have a speaker who's talking about his daughter. So, what I would like for you to do is to quietly read the poem to yourself, use the annotations to take notes over the poem. What you're going to be looking for again are similes, metaphors, and oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. Well, let me see. You're going to be, that was the wrong annotation. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I'll be doing the annotations here. Words you don't know, yellow. Still doing pink for similes, green for metaphors, and blue for personification. So remote learners, you need to go to Google Classroom and you're going to click on today's assignment, which is 92520 worksheet, paraphrase the writer. I will walk you through the first two examples of paraphrasing in the following slides, and you will make sure to copy the examples I provide on the slides. In order to get credit, you have to do this, or I'm going to take off points for not following directions. You will independently paraphrase the last three boxes that are highlighted green on your own in your own words. If you have any problems, let me know. So this is what the worksheet looks like. One has been done for you. We're going to do another one together, and then these three you will do on your own. Right. Let's go to the poem. Let me get to the poem. All right, we're going to look at the first stanzas, which are the first three lines. I'm going ahead and pause for a second, get a drink of water. Okay, so what I want you to do is to, if you haven't done so, pause and go ahead and read the poem quietly to yourself, and then annotate as you go along for similes, metaphor, and personification, and any words you do not know. So take a moment to pause and do your first read. Okay, in the first three lines, in her room at the prow of the house, where light breaks and the windows are tossed with linen, my daughter is writing a story. So if you look at your footnotes, the prow is a part of the ship. It's the front that's above water. So, and if you notice when you're reading the poem, you probably saw some other nautical terms being used by the speaker. We can tell the speaker is the father and that he's talking about his daughter, who is also apparently growing up into a writer as well. But focusing on this nautical term, it's kind of by referring to the house as a ship. You could kind of almost look at him as the captain, and she's on the ship, and he's trying to navigate her through this journey of becoming a writer. Here, where he talks about where the light breaks and the windows are tossed with linen, it suggests that windows are talking about lanes being crossed, that probably her vision might be a little bit clouded or hidden, or she can't see totally clearly. And that might be the poet's way of suggesting that she's still very young and naive. But we know that he sees that she is trying to become a writer as she is writing a story. So if we go to our worksheet and when we paraphrase, click on the Zoom. So my daughter's room is, when you paraphrase, again, we're just going to, let me go here. I should go here first. When you paraphrase, you restate the ideas in the text in your own words. The meaning and logical order of the paraphrase should follow the original text. A paraphrase of a poem should be written in prose, just like you're talking, and it does not need to follow any kind of poetic structure. You're just like almost as if you're explaining what the lines are. You're not writing poetry. So here's how you would write the first 3 lines. My daughter's room is located in the front of the house, which is like a boat is heading towards a bright future. The light coming in is broken and covered with leaves, hindering her vision. I'm proud that she is a writer. So all I did was take each of these lines and just broke it into my own words and put it into uh, 3 sentences. So each of these lines into a sentence. All right, so let's go on to the next lines, the next 3 set of lines. I paused in the stairwell, hearing from her shut door a commotion of typewriter keys, like the chain hauled over the gone wall. Young as she is, the stuff of her life, it is a great cargo, and some of it heavy. I wish her a lucky passage. So again, you hear those nautical terms being used. Let's go back to paraphrasing. So young as she is, the stuff of her life, it is a great cargo, and some of it's heavy. I wish her lucky passage. So we're going to paraphrase these lines. My daughter's very young as she is. The things she must carry in life of her life is a great cargo. So those are cargo is like a ship that's carrying a bunch of supplies. So the things she carries with her in life are nonetheless a heavy load. I tell her that I hope she has an easy journey. I wish her a lucky passage. So all you're doing is taking the sentences and breaking it down into simpler forms, and you're just writing it out into your own words, into prose, not into poetry. So you should copy onto your worksheet. This one's already done, and I just showed you how to do this one. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go through the poem a little bit more. So we see, like I said, the speaker, the father is a writer, watching his daughter grow up and becoming a writer, and kind of being frustrated by writing as well. And he's kind of listening into her. He's listening near her door and hearing her typing on the keys as she's writing. And what's interesting is how he's describing it so dismissively. The sounds of the commotion, it's not like a melody. It's as if it's some kind of noise, as if her typing was random and emotional without thought. Furthermore, he takes that ship motif and he compares it to the sound of her typing to the chain being hauled over the gunwale. That's the upper edge side of a boat or a ship, as if her typing were a hard, unskilled labor, unlike his own implied grace. So he's kind of, maybe being a little harsh with her since she is so young and a writer, and he is too a poet, a writer of some sort. So he might be, thinking she's not quite at the expertise that he is, of course, right now, being a little bit critical of her. Okay. So being a dad, he's just being like a little bit patronizing, especially when he says, young as she is, the stuff of her life. That stuff is kind of being a little patronizing there. He's concerned that the great cargo is which is heavy, but even that he kind of minimizes her emotions as baggage, is is mostly not important in the grand scheme of things, I guess. And this the way most parents who consider the drama of school or any kind of uh, drama kids bring home, they might kind of just demean that, and maybe that's what he's doing with her writing right now. Because she seems to be battling something, like getting really frustrated, and maybe she's not handling it well. Um, then you will see there is a shift to the poem starting on stanza number 6, line 16. So I remember the days, darling, which was trapped in the very room 2 years ago. So you can see everything is in the present, and then he shifts there to something in the past. So this is a memory that he's going to, and he's talking about this bird that he remembers that had got trapped in her room, and they had to help set it free. Birds that are ever caged, a lot of poems have birds in a cage seeking out freedom. That's very symbolic of someone finding their feet and growing and moving on in life. Um, so he's beginning to recall that trapped bird in the room. And of course, like I said, any story when trapped in a room is symbolic of trying to escape the confines of something. It could be like a toxic relationship, it can be escaping some kind of tradition or some irrational society. But he's wanting to enjoy the freedom on the other side, and that's what that bird was trying to do. And the confines of, you can almost see this as if, and in another way, that this bird is really his daughter, a way of him seeing his daughter who is, fluttering around, trying to find her wings and fly free as a writer. And he is, trying to help her. Maybe he's not thinking she's quite ready for it, keeping her kind of caged, but no, she needs to step out on her own and fly as a writer. Um, and what's kind of cool about this is how he tells the story about the bird. He kind of frames it as an adventure that him and his daughter have both shared, in which he's teaching her even without knowing it. And he's teaching her that it's worthwhile saving that bird, that they need to be patient and try not to dominate the bird, which in really is what he should be doing. He needs to be patient with her, not dominating her, letting her find her own way. Um, and the key to and the key here to his admission is that they're helpless. So as a parent, he knows it's time for him to let go, but he's starting to lose that control over her because she's growing into an adult, and he just needs to learn to let go. So here at the end of the poem, he's come to an acceptance of realizing that she is her own person, and he realizes not to be dismissive of her feelings or any kind of conflict she's dealing with. Um, at the end, when he says, I wish what I wish you before, but harder, he's acknowledging that he will have less ability to protect her now. He may also be commenting on the difficulties of life of a writer or an artist, and knows what she's about to face, but he knows that he has to accept that she's growing on, and she's going to have to experience life on her own. So I hope you enjoyed these two poems. There's, of course, more you can read into it. I just wanted to get you started so that you can start thinking. Poems are so much fun to analyze and talk about their deeper meanings. I can't wait for you guys to get back to school so that we can have more discussions. I know it's remote is going to be very difficult with maybe having those discussions, but share your poems with your family, your friends. Tell them what you think about it, what it makes you feel, and just have some discussion, and that will be great. Y'all take care and make sure you're doing your work and keeping up with everything. And if you have any questions, let me know. Have a great day.